And tonight on our Great American Panel, he's a Democratic strategist who worked with New York Senator Chuck Schumer. Chris Hahn is back. She is a columnist for the Sun Sentinel. Republican strategist Noel Nickpour. He is a former assistant U.S. attorney and currently a senior fellow at National Review Institute. And that's Andy McCarthy is back with us. By the way, I'd say this about Chris, that he's you're tired of pretending you're a total bitchin' rock star.
I'm winning, Sean. I'm winning.
You got
At least
tiger,
in 08 we were winning.
You got tiger blood in you here.
Tiger blood.
All right, Radar Online, latest on Charlie Sheen.
What would you say to her as the mother of your twins?
Nothing. I would say, how dare you? How dare you? You're a better parent than me? Shame on you. Your day is coming, and it's coming fast. That's what I would say.
All right, I don't know who's the better mother, parent, from my father, but he did say I was banging 7 grams of rocks and finishing them. That's how I roll, and only dying is only for amateurs. Kind of scary.
It's a train wreck. I don't know what's scarier, listening to him or the fact that we're listening to him, you know, that everybody's so riveted.
I think we're witnessing him bottoming out. I mean, I think this is his road to bottoming out. I think he's about done. And I think one thing that needs to happen is I think those children need to be removed and be placed with the Sheens, with his parents.
What about he keeps taking these drug tests, though, and he's clean?
I mean, look at the guy, though. You know, the funny thing about him, you hear him on, like...
You're a liberal. You're nuts. I mean, I wouldn't take your kids away.
You hear him on the radio. I heard him on Stern. He sounded almost normal. Then you see pictures of him on TV, and you look at a guy who looks like he's really coming off a bender. Yeah. It's really scary. And if
but you know, so I don't judge that, because I once interviewed Mel Gibson, and Mel is a creative genius, and he's like, his mind is always working, and he sort of like can't turn it off, and he's right. So he seems hyper, but you know.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if he's on drugs or not on. He's got a history of instability. He's a.
Well, that's the thing that gets me, and some people have been saying he has a history of instability, and CBS chooses now to remove him. Why? Because he's criticizing CBS. They weren't removing him when he was beating his wife. They weren't removing him when he was beating his girlfriend.
He was found not guilty, by the way, on that issue in
well, you know,
Denver.
Again, so that the question is, if the guy's showing up for work, why is CBS removing him anyway?
But they're not really removing him. They're leaving the door open for him to come back precisely because we're all obsessed with it.
But you guys are missing the point.
I'll tell you what, he'll be huge ratings when he comes back.
You're missing the point. He's admitting he has a drug, that he's using drugs. That's illegal the last time I checked.
Well, you know, the last interviews I've heard, he said he's not using drugs. He's stopped using drugs. He's got this lifestyle that he enjoys. He feels he's, quote, winning all the time. And, you know
he thinks it's a joke.
My fear is for him, and it seems like he has a bunch of enablers around him telling him how great he is, and nobody wants to tell him the truth. And my only fear for him is that, you know what, guess what? There are a lot of people that use drugs. If he's using that quantity of drugs that he said he used, he's on a path to dying. Well, and he's got 5 kids that need a father.
The main difference I see between him and other narcissists in Hollywood is he's being honest about it. He's telling people exactly what's going on.
That might be a little refreshing, but it may be stupid from a legal standpoint.
Look, he's our source for whether he's being honest or not. I have no idea whether he's being honest about it.
But you know what he says? He said that his children are going to look at this and think he's really bitching. You know what I think? I think the children are going to look back on this and say, oh my gosh, my father was an absolute nincompoop.
Well, you know, you got to feel for the children, and this whole thing would be a different story if there weren't children involved. There are children involved, and we can only pray that the guy, you know, gets things together for them.
By the way, Hillary wants real news in America. She wants cable companies to carry Al Jazeera to compete with us.
She lost her mind?
We'll have more with our Great American Panel straight ahead. And we continue now with our Great American Panel. All right, so Hillary Clinton actually said, Secretary of State, that Al Jazeera is, quote, real news. This would be the same source, by the way, that member Osama bin Laden used to spew his propaganda. But and they're pushing now to get cable providers to carry Al Jazeera in America because they don't like the news channels that actually give news the way we do in this country. So we want the propaganda network.
Yeah, she said they don't have talking heads, and I wonder if anyone alerted her. The most popular show on Al Jazeera is Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi's Sharia and Life. Karadali is the leading light in the Muslim
very
Brotherhood.
popular among
so
American
you can turn
women.
on and you can learn that homosexuals need to be stoned, adulterers need to be stoned, Salman Rushdie needs to be killed, Jerusalem needs to
Apostates
Israel
need
needs
to be killed.
destroyed. Yeah.
You know, and by the way, you may want to strap bombs on your kids.
Right.
They talk about that.
Well, no, absolutely.
What kind of backpack?
You come away with real information.
But you're saying that that radicals talk about radical ideology.
It's not it's every day there. It's not. We think it's radical. To them, it's Tuesday.
You see, Sharia is radical. This is what people don't understand. When people talk about Sharia compliance, et cetera, it's...
Well, you know, if there's a
Totally.
market for it, people will buy it. I don't think anybody needs to encourage anything.
Well, who would
as far
advertise on
as
that
cable. I
anyway?
mean, you know, I mean,
What's the name of the show?
advertise it?
Sharia and life.
Sharia and life.
It
And
makes
life.
it sound so fun. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just horrible. There's
Hey,
no...
tens of millions of people
Watch it.
around the world, but not
Yeah.
here.
Why would why? This is what I don't understand. Knowing how brutal Sharia is to women, and women get stoned to death, they're buried, like, for example, in Iran, halfway up, they get stoned to death, and apostates should be killed because they, under Sharia.
Right.
And women in Saudi Arabia can't drive, and you can't be seen in public with a man you're not related to. Why would any...
And why would a
Hillary
woman?
support that?
Yeah, why would a woman, bring that forth?
Because
You have to
they're
wonder about that.
inventing their own version of Islam, and Hillary thinks that she knows more about what Islam means than Karadali.
I have worked with Senator Clinton in my past life, and I've been around her people. I don't know where this statement's coming from. I'm sure it was an isolated statement based on a certain portion of what she did. She's a great Secretary of State. She was a great senator for New York, and she was a great first.
Stop sucking up. I mean, do you think American cable operators need to carry Al Jazeera?
American cable operators should carry things that their subscribers want them to see and that there's a
Well,
market
who
for.
wants
And
to
that's
see?
it.
Is there a
And
market
regardless
for
of what
America for Al Jazeera with the program that Andy, I didn't know that program was on. It's Sharia and what is it?
Sharia and life.
And life.
Yeah. Who's going to watch that?
Listen,
And you know what? At a
if
time
there's a
where we
market
need
for
to,
it-
to watch terrorism, that's
No,
the last thing that
Noelle,
we need is to have
you and I
people
both
watching
know
Al Jazeera
if the
here in the
cable
United States.
carriers and the satellite carriers felt that people were going to buy it and advertise on it, they'd carry it. No
You are
politician could
wrong
tell
on
them
that.
what to carry.
All right, this Westboro church, this case that the Supreme Court 8-1 decision yesterday that came down, I've interviewed the people from Westboro. They're nuts. And they go to the funerals of families of fallen heroes, and they try and make their life miserable and holding up these signs. There is, what, I think 1,000 feet that they got to stand back. What did you think of the decision?
I think that as long as they are out of earshot
Of people, you ought to have the right to have a funeral.
Yes, but they have to have the right to say what they say, even if it's reprehensible.
I think I think they're kooks. I mean, and I hate to, I'm going to be the person that's not going to be politically correct here. I think the Westboro people are absolutely kooks, and when they were at the funeral,
I think
they could hear him. They could
do
hear
that
him
to a
chanting.
family in mourning is
They're
evil.
But when he was at the
Vile.
funeral,
They're vile
they could
people.
hear him chanting and chanting, even though they were far
Let
away.
me tell
they
you
could keep
something.
hearing him.
There is a special place in hell for those people.
Yeah, I
and they're
actually
out
agree
there
with you.
saying that Jesus Christ is making them do that. Jesus Christ is crying over what they do. He was about peace, love, and acceptance, and they're nothing about it.
All he's doing
And
is
there's a special
inflicting
place in
pain.
hell
But
for
what
them.
about the free speech legal aspect?
Listen, the free speech legal aspect, unfortunately, democracy is that's what we have in this country. But I think there should be a time, place, and manner restriction here. You're a better lawyer than I am, Andrew. But there,
Repeat that again.
There should be a time, place, and manner restriction.
No, not that part. Not that part.
You actually practice.
All right, you throwing the ball out?
I'm going to do it.
All right, Noelle's going to take us out with the ball. Greta.